So Angie, thanks for coming, and just introduce your ticket and tell us why you're qualified and why your ticket's qualified.
Okay. I'm Angie Hong. I'm currently the vice president now, and I'm running on the ticket Towson State of Mind. I'm running for president, and then for our vice president is London Hawkins. She's currently in AKA, and she's actually just won Pike's Dream Girl, so she's gotten to know them a lot. And she's also a senator. And then we have Neil Rivera for treasurer. He's the appropriations chair now, so he's next in line in terms of treasurer, in terms of like the positioning for SJ. So he's been in senator since like for about 2 years. And then Brandy Hall, attorney general. She is just like a boatload of fun and energy, and she's right now the director of special projects for URG. And then we have Al, and he's in TEAC, and he's also in like the National Collegiate Scholars Organization, and so he's a newcomer, but I think he has a lot of great ideas. So,
And tell us what makes you guys qualified.
um, I personally, for myself, I have a lot of experience. I've been on SJ since my freshman year as a senator, and then director of legislative affairs, and now I'm the vice president. So I've gotten an insight of what's going on campus, and maybe the problems that we do have, the reasons why they're not being solved or they can't be at this moment. So I think from there, I think it takes about a year to just really get used to the process, and I wish it was more of a two-term thing, because you could do a lot if you learned it ahead of time, and then you can go ahead and act on it the following year. So I think that's great. And then we definitely are a cultural mosaic of the student body. We've come from different walks of the campus, and it sounds kind of cliche because a lot of people can say that, but we've generally taken those experiences and kind of realized that we do need to do more, and we are the people to do it. So.
And why are you guys really running?
Um, it just happened. I just want to start off by saying, like, I definitely was supposed to graduate a year early and try to go to the Peace Corps, and then that didn't work out with just, I guess, financial reasons, whatever. But so I'm still here for another year, and I loved SGA this year. Like last year, I was kind of like meh, so I didn't know if I wanted to do it again. But they're like, if it's just one bad year, like try it again. So I did, and I really love it, and I don't see any reason not to do it again. And London, I just was talking to her, and it kind of everything was very organic in terms of how it came together, and it was just coming together and talking about it, and everyone wanted to do it, and I think it was for the right reasons, and we promised each other we'd stay genuine throughout the process, and we just wanted to create that change, and I think we've all got a handle on campus, and we talk to different people, and we don't just stick to one group, so I think that's great for us. And so we were like, we can do it, like this is great, and we know what we're going to do. So
All right. So what can your ticket offer that others can't, and why should the student select your full ticket?
I'm trying to think, because I feel like that question's hard without trying to bash the other ticket, because it's just like, how are we better? But it's how we can best do our job. We've stayed honest and genuine. We like to talk about our progresses, but we also are not afraid to say all of our setbacks, and we do want to maintain that like communication and trust, and I think that we're all very good for that. And in terms of just being together, it's just amazing, and it feels natural, and so I like that a lot. But I think there's more questions within. There's like 2 or 3 questions within it.
Oh yeah.
Answer, sorry.
And then just why should your whole ticket be elected as opposed to just individual candidates from your ticket?
Oh. It's not really an option for us to be split ticket, because when we talk to each other, we're always talking about Towson State of Mind, vote for Towson State of Mind, because we don't want anyone to fall behind, and we've created these platforms and visions for us as a group that we think would work best with the student body, and so we know that we would be the strongest in being more effective for it.
Okay. What do you see as some of the weaknesses within the SGA?
I think, and this has always been an issue, I think this is an issue within the human race, is just communication. I think a lot of things can get lost in translation, and when it comes to legislation and budget, I think that's a lot to handle too as a student group, and getting that out. And then if we do want to have more summits for them to attend, sometimes they might not want to do it because they're busy, but that's the only way we can get our message across of what needs to be done before. So I think that's a lot of frustration within the student groups, but that's something that we're kind of realizing we need to do more word of mouth, because word of mouth more than anything has been the most effective. And then media, because I was in Invisible Children before, and media definitely grabs people and it makes people want to know more, and just putting stuff in their faces, I think, instead of having them search for it would be better. So.
Alright, so that was probably my next question, is just what will be different about next year?
We have a lot of things in mind because I think the only way to know what is good for students is if you were within other student organizations and you understand what they had struggles with and what you had struggles with yourself, and then working that towards it. So making sure the student groups do kind of in their transition phases from the next year, make sure people have the right contacts for that. And we want to kind of set a place of a program where it's students, maybe we can, the SGA can pay a flat fee. And then, so for ECS charges, because if a nonprofit organization on campus wants to throw an awareness like screening, they still have to pay $300 some for ECS, and I don't think that's really necessarily fair because they're just trying to spread awareness about the organization, but they have to shell out that money. So I think just a lot of supporting and programming for them as well.
All right. And we're asking this to each ticket, but have you or your ticket received any strikes or violations with campaigning this year?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
So, I mean, we've gotten something about our YouTube video was up April 12th, I'm just being honest, but April 12th and April 15th is formal, but the April 12th was kept on private until actually April 16th. So then we didn't get it. But we haven't gotten in trouble, so
Okay.
it's pretty awesome.
So in your mind, what power does the SJ have, and how big of an influence is the SJ apart from simply funding student organizations?
I think that's up to the executive board because I've seen different years, and sometimes you may think the SJ has not as much power, but it's definitely within the executive board. If they want to take initiative and do things, then there's definitely a lot of power there to really make those changes. And we do get to meet with administration more often, and they listen to us more. So it's just being that conduit for the student body to the administrators.
Okay. You talked about qualifications with each of your members a little bit already, but how did you go about choosing your ticket? How did it form? Was it based on demographic or just qualifications, or how did you really formulate your ticket?
I didn't really think about demographics because, and this is, everyone talks about demographics and how there's a certain type of person you have to get into each position, but for mine, it's pretty simple and plain to see that it's not like that at all. It's more of who's qualified, who had the energy, and who really wanted to do it. And I wasn't, I think a lot more people did it earlier than years before, but I've just kind of gotten to know the senators, which include London and Neil and Brandy from Leadership when she did it, and so she was more involved, so we got to connect with that. And then Al just through mutual friends and things like that. So it happened naturally. I don't know. It just, and it felt right, and it feels right now, so.
All right. What sort of new policies do you plan to implement, and with those policies, do you see them as feasible?
Yeah. So we are actually working right now on trying to figure out the student conduct policy. That's just a different kind of take on what you're asking, but just to make sure that it's fair for students, because I think there's always a double whammy in terms of if students get in trouble with like saying party or anything like that, and then on top of that school, and also hearsay. I think a lot of times it's okay to they'll get sanctioned people for hearsay, and that's not really fair for students. So protecting the students in that aspect with university policy, and in terms of SGA policy, just making sure that student groups are being able to function and not frustrated with what's going on, but at the same time making sure that they're held accountable, because we don't want to use student fees for just people to take random trips and so that they don't have to pay for it themselves. But just more policies that deal with, again, the ECS and all those things, and making tier systems of student groups, because sometimes it is harder for other student groups to fundraise more money if they're not as a large group. So the budgets right now, you take out 15%, and that doesn't really help with student groups that struggle to fundraise that money, and it's not necessarily their fault, they just don't have the manpower. So working on that more with policies and holding people accountable and using the judicial branch more.
Okay.
And how will the SGA budget be used should you get in office with your ticket?
We're doing a lot of things. So in terms of the budget, we're talking about now with Nicole, who's the president now, just with the sports club's budget and CAB's budget and WMJF TV, because they are sponsored by us, but they're a different kind of system. So working with that and how they want to use their money. And for budgeting for student groups is, again, we're talking about the 15% and things like that. It's hard because we want to stay consistent and not blur the lines, but at the same time, it's bad for the student group sometimes because they're just like, this isn't fair, like it's harder for us to do certain things. And so it's that line of like making student groups happy and feel like that we're doing our job, and then also making sure that we're staying within the funding policy so it is consistent. So we're doing things with, we want to do sustainability initiatives more, and so we have the green fund now, and that was $30,000 in the this year because it was the startup, but I don't think we're going to give as much because we use the increase of student fees to do that. So we're going to do the green fund, and then we want to tap in more into the director of diversity position so that we can kind of bring that to the level that it needs to be in. Similar to the civic engagement, because Elliot's done great with bike rental programs, LED lighting, and that's put us on the mark as a Towson. So I'm looking forward to that and appropriating the student fees for the student groups as well. That's a huge part of it.
So about students, a lot of times they bring a lot of problems up in general. What do you see as the biggest issue for students? Parking, textbooks, things within that vicinity?
Yeah, so we actually have gotten a lot of emails throughout this year from student groups of concerns from getting couches in the catwalk in the psych building to just their one card not working and then the workers not being able to use it. So those are just a few of just the daily, I guess, frustrations from students that we've heard. A lot of it's academic advising, and so talking to Provost Welsh, we are trying to work through that, and for some reason in university time it takes a long time to get things done, like successfully, I guess. It just is a process and growing. I think a main student concern would be parking and transportation, but they're also taking care of that, and with taking care of it, it also means we do need that wait time of building the garages and making sure that the fees don't increase as much. So a lot of it is financial for students, I think, and we're doing our best that we can as the SGA to do more funding that's appropriate, and we realize that it's more of a need for it. So transportation and parking, that's been an issue, but I think it's been working on, and we've done a lot of things with like the library hours, and so we opened it up at 7:30 instead of 8 so that people in their 8 o'clock classes can get in, get their stuff printed out. And then actually after 3 o'clock, there's a study that showed that Morgan students are the only ones that are in the Towson library after 3 o'clock in the library. So those are just some interesting things that I've learned also and have known as a student concern. So.
And a lot of another concern for the SGA has been transparency. How you plan on going about that if you get in office for correcting that issue if it is an issue in your
Yeah. We're definitely working on the budgeting as a transparency initiative, and I think Daryl's putting up a monthly report for it, but then also Neil's he's on point with his just calculations and everything, and we're also not really afraid to show it, because if we aren't afraid to show it, then it means that we're doing something right and we're not scared for other students to be mad about it. So I think that won't be an issue, and I totally know that our whole exec board that's running, we have been transparent to each other from the beginning, and so we want to do that the same with students, because I know that I'm more of a political activist anyways in terms of just making sure everything's fair and we know the truth, and so I think we are seeking the truth, so we want others to know the truth.
And the budget thing, that's an initiative for this SGA, this current board, or is it something
Which
different?
one?
When you said the budget, you guys are trying to make that more transparent. Is that that's for the current SGA, or is that something that you guys are picking up?
It goes into both, I think. It's more of, I think we've done a better job of it this year as the current executive board. For our next year, though, I know Neil feels very passionately and has talked to different student organizations like Student Helping Honduras about making sure that we are transparent with our budget, because we want to prove that we're not just taking advantage of student fees. And so they're comfortable with putting up that money for it.
And school spirit. How you guys feel about school spirit? I mean, you guys are doing a music video today.
Yeah.
How you guys feel about school spirit, and what will you do to increase if there's any need for it?
There's definitely always a need for school spirit. There's it's better to have more black and gold. But I think the main thing is that we can be honest and say we can't make people be school spirited. We can not spirited. We can only kind of show by example, and I think people are just contagious, and if someone else is excited about something, you can't help but be more excited about it too. And so even with the videos and campaigning, I love it because it really allows us to be more energized and remember why we're doing this in the first place, because sometimes you may lose touch. So by being more school spirited ourselves, and we can kind of relay that onto the student body, and just letting them know that there are a lot of things that Towson can offer that you would be proud of when you graduate of having. And I think within my position personally as president, that's my job, to be more external and to let other people know from across the nation that Towson's a great school. So when everyone does graduate, which is, I think college is a stepping stone, they can be like, dang, like you went to Towson, that's awesome. And I've heard a lot of great things. And then that just kind of instills pride and alumni pride too. And I think that's really important. So just being really proudful of ourselves too.
Any last plugs you would like to add in to the people of Towson?
Ooh, this is like the last words. Just that we're really excited and that we know we have a lot of our capabilities combined that can help the Towson student body, and I think we're very genuine and we just really want the best, and it's definitely a self-sacrificing position to be in the exec board, and we're ready to do it, and we've making a lot of strides to get there. So hopefully the student body will agree and vote for us.